Now, the challenges for President Biden have already begun. And this is fascinating. So you may have heard that according to the BBC, about 7,000 migrants have gathered together in Honduras and Guatemala to go to the border. We're starting this all over again, all right? And they are doing that because they believe Joe Biden is going to practice an open border policy. So according to NBC News, a spokesman for Biden, unidentified, which is what NBC News and the rest of them do, has said to the migrants, this is not a good time to do this. We don't want the first actions of the Biden administration to be 7,000 people crossing into the United States illegally. But what did you think was going to happen? I mean, these people know what Joe Biden has said about illegal immigration. And the enforcement is going to be far less than it was under President Trump. Everybody knows that. All right, but the big thing is that Trump made an agreement with Mexican President Obrador that Trump would not declare the Mexican cartels terror groups in return for Obrador using the Mexican armed forces to stop the caravans. That was the deal. Secret deal, never confirmed by either man, but I know it's true. And that stopped the migration into America by these groups cold. Well, that deal is no longer enforced. Not there anymore. Because Biden would never designate the cartels as terror groups. Not what he does. So now there's no deal. And the people from Central America and Mexico itself can come on up to the border. If they get in, they get in. Now, many of them are readying asylum requests because Joe Biden, you know, his asylum policy is kind of murky. Roll the tape.
We'll have to have a process to ensure everyone's health and safety, including the safety of asylum seekers, hoping for a new start in the United States, free of violence and persecution.
Come on. That's basically, hey, come on. Everybody in the world, not just in Central America. Everybody in the world. Everybody in Hong Kong, right? Everybody there. If you get here, you come in. Joe Biden, come on in. And 5 years from now, maybe we'll get to your case. But in the meantime, you can go and do whatever you want in the USA. That's what he just said. That's what he just said. Hopefully free of persecution. Come on in. So any person in the world can now come into the United States and apply for asylum. Okay, that's number one. Elections have consequences. And for you 80 million plus who voted for Joe Biden, you just voted for chaos. Because when these people come here, and many of them are persecuted, many of them are desperate, almost all of them are poor, the American taxpayer is going to pick it up. You heard Biden in the debate say, I'm going to pay for the health care of all illegal immigrants. Government's going to pay for their health care. As soon as they get here, we're going to be paying all their health care bills. We're going to be paying their food stamps. We're going to be paying their housing. We're going to be paying everything. That'll bankrupt the country. Now, you think I'm being dire? I'm not. I'm realistic. If I were a poor person living anywhere in the world, I'd make damn well sure I got to that Mexican border and got over it, no matter what I had to do. And I'll show up and I ask for asylum and I'm going to get a hearing 5 to 10 years from now. In the meantime, I can live in the USA. Come on. That is exactly what's going to happen. Are you telling me that 80 million American voters did not understand that? I'll tell you, most of them didn't. But you'll see. You'll mark my words right now. In the next 2 years, we are going to be overwhelmed by foreign nationals. And you border states, Arizona, Nevada, You voted for Joe Biden? Wait till you see what's going to happen to your state. Texas, New Mexico, of course. Anyway, all right. In addition to that, Joe Biden wants to give amnesty to 11 million undocumented people already here. All right. So I'm thinking maybe 2-3 million going to come in the next year. And then we got 11 million already here. So 4 people, anonymous sources, told the AP that Biden's going to introduce legislation to legalize at least 11 million undocumented very, very soon. And again, we'll be paying for all of their health care. I'm sitting here as a loyal American, and I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. Because there's nothing to stop this. Biden is not going to enforce the border like Trump did. Not going to make a deal with Obrador to use the Mexican military to stop the caravans. Not going to do it. Because at this juncture in history, the Democratic Party wants as many foreign nationals in this country because most of them will register to vote as Democrats. You've seen the demographic changes in Texas, in Arizona, in Nevada, in California, particularly California. In New York City, where I am, 50% of the workforce in the city is foreign born. 50%. And you wonder why you have no Republican Party? In New York State, it does not exist. It does not exist in California. Texas is the big thing. The Democrats want to turn it blue. And you do that by flooding the state with people sympathetic to the Democratic Party. Okay. In addition to the immigration chaos, and I'll be on this like no one will be in this country. I will report to you directly anything that happens in this area. So Iran is going to challenge Biden right off the bat. They already did. Iranian boats surrounded an American submarine in the Persian Gulf on January 14th. Biden's president. So you're going to see provocations from Iran. You will see provocations from China, but I don't know what they will be. Also, Putin will provoke. They're going to stick Biden, stick him. All right? See what he's got. See what he says. See what he does. So Iran, China, Putin. Big 3. North Korea, I don't know about yet because a lot of chaos inside that country and we don't really know. All right, now a lot of you have written to me and said, why is gas on up here on Long Island? And let me correct myself. I'm 20 miles outside of New York City. But where I live on Long Island, a gallon of gas is now 10 cents more expensive than it was a week ago. It's gone up, 1 gallon's gone up 10 cents. So people go, well, why? Well, why do you think? Biden is going to attack fossil fuels. He's going to shut down pipelines. He's going to do everything he can to hurt the fossil fuel and oil industries. They know that. They know that their expenses and everything else, the fossil fuel industry is going up, and they won't be able to do as much business. So they're raising the prices in advance of that, and we're paying. Again, did the 80 million people who voted for Joe Biden not know that? Okay. So summing up, Joe Biden's big day is Wednesday, 46th President of the United States. I congratulate Mr. Biden. I congratulate him. In a million years, I never would have voted for him, not because of ideology. I don't care whether he's a Democrat or an independent or a Republican or a libertarian. I could not care less. But I, as an American citizen, knew if he won, the economy would be hurt, which it will be, and immigration will go insane, which it will. And the unintended consequences of both of those things the economy and immigration, will hurt every single one of us. You mark my words. Now, don't go outside and be depressed because it's only 2 years. All right? In 2 years, big congressional elections. And Biden can be stopped, and his agenda can be stopped. Partially. But it's not like this is in stone forever. But the damage done in 2 years, unless Joe Biden proves me wrong, which he could, but what are the odds of that, really? What are the odds of that? All right, we're in a recession. Everybody knows it. Millions of Americans have lost their jobs, and now's the time to evaluate your financial portfolio. And I recommend you hold some gold and silver, and the company that I use is American Hartford Gold Group. I've been with them for years. They sell physical gold and silver. You can hold it, or they'll deliver it to your IRA. Gold is up more than 30% since I started telling you about the American Hartford Gold Group. So please call them now, tell them Bill sent you, and they'll give you $1,500 of free silver on your first order. The number is 877-444-GOLD-GOLD, 877-444-GOLD-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. So if you're president of the United States, you get a lot of stuff. And there was an article in Men's Health magazine, and it lists all the perks. I just want to run a few of them down for you. You might not know that. Obviously, the president gets a plane, big plane. And one of the most interesting parts of my career was I got to ride in that plane when I was researching in the United States of Trump with Donald Trump. And it's a fascinating thing. So they get the big plane. Then they get to live in a White House, which is amazingly luxurious, and every time I've been in there, my mouth just goes, wow. I mean, if there's any place in the world that I'd want to live, it would be the White House. I don't want to be president, I just want to live there. All right, then they get their own vacation home, Camp David. Camp David, I'd rather be in Malibu someplace, but that's all right. Then they get an executive chef to cook all their meals at any time of the day or night. So they got 2 or 3 rotating chefs, but if you're hungry at 4 a.m., hey, here it is. You get an omelet. Then they get hired help. 100 people work directly for the president, including maids, cooks, butlers, plumbers, engineers, florists, anything you want. You get a button on their desk, the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. You push that button, people instantly appear. Yes, Mr. President. So one of the funny parts in the United States of Trump is that Trump used that button a lot because he always wanted Diet Coke, up to 24 Diet Cokes a day. That button, Trump's finger must be muscular for pressing that button. He gets $400,000 a year in salary, the president does, and he gets a pension. Barack Obama last year got $208,000 in a pension. All right, so this is a good gig. This presidential thing, this is good. And you get a vacation allowance, take your family anywhere you want, get a clothing allowance, get nice suits and ties and shirts. It's a good gig. Okay, so the media is absolutely thrilled this week. And by the way, there's been a lot of press about the decline of Fox News, the ratings decline there, and it's pretty serious. But MSNBC and CNN, the direct competitors, they're doing all right now. But once Biden takes over and there's no Trump, although they'll hate Trump every night anyway, no matter what, Trump's going to be a private citizen, they'll still hate him. Their ratings are going to go down too. So they're all going down because it's boring now. Except us, we're going up a lot. So the media is now openly rooting for Joe Biden. They have a vested interest in his success. And they're not going to say anything bad about him because they worked with the Democratic Party to get Biden elected. You need to know that, which is why our broadcast becomes more important. Number one, we're not ideological, we're fact-based, and you need to know the facts. And you ain't going to get them from the network or cable news agencies. Okay, roll a tape on wanting Biden to succeed.
I am truly Excited to watch Joe Biden and Kamala Harris become the next president and vice president of the United States.
The moment is meeting Biden where he's always been.
Now, luckily, the current administration is only the current administration for another 5 days, because next Wednesday, the keys to the country will be handed over to President-elect Joe Biden.
Now, I used Colbert because he's the #1 late night show, but his ratings are abysmal. I mean, they're terrible if you compare them to Jay Leno and Johnny Carson. I mean, they're not even close. But the reason Colbert is beating Fallon and Kimmel, whose ratings are beyond belief low, is because he bashed Trump every night and he hates Trump. Now that's going to go away to some extent. He's still going to bash and hate him, but it doesn't matter anymore because he's not there. Where do you see what happens to Colbert? Okay. So is there a mandate for Joe Biden? This is the most important question of the week, of this inaugural week. Is there a mandate? He won by 7 million votes. Now, you can say there was shenanigans and some fraud, and I believe there was, but not at that level, not at 7 million, okay? So Biden wins 7 million more votes than Donald Trump in a popular, and obviously beats him in the electoral. In the United States, there are 3,006 counties. So I live in Nassau County, and you live in some county. That's the way we're broken down. Donald Trump won 2,497 counties throughout the USA. 84% of the counties went for Trump. Biden won just 16%. Now, when Obama won the second time, Biden won 22% of the counties. So Biden lost 6% from Obama. The source of all this is the Brookings Institute. So when you have Donald Trump winning 84% of all the counties in America, that doesn't bode well for Joe Biden. So Biden won all the cities which are falling apart. I mean, you give me the city, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Washington, Atlanta, it's Armageddon, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. But Biden won all the votes there. And that's why he is president. Many of us are worried that our 401ks and retirement savings, everything we worked for over a lifetime, could evaporate. With all the fake news, it's important to have an independent expert in our corner to preserve and grow our savings. It's simple. So please meet Silicon Valley angel investor and 5G expert Jeff Brown of Brownstone Research, whose only obligation is to us, to you. His newsletter, The Near Future Report, shares his analysis on where the stock market is going and when, which stocks are poised to rise and fall, and new ways to profit from the exploding tech market. His track record is amazing, so please go to bill5g.com. It's easy, bill5g.com. You will thank me. Let's go to LA, where our pal Ben Stein, who is one of the smartest observers of American culture that I know. Good
God bless
writer. Yeah. So you're right in the middle of this maelstrom in Los Angeles. But let me ask you on the whole country, are you optimistic or pessimistic about America?
I'm very pessimistic. I think we've lost a lot of the Constitution. Free speech is just a memory. And I'm very pessimistic about it politically and in terms of law. But in terms of economics, I think we're doing quite well, surprisingly well. I think President Trump's policies in response to economic chaos caused by the pandemic has been brilliant, and we're doing astonishingly well.
Now, you wrote speeches for both President Nixon and President Ford. The culture back then was so different, even though we were coming off the Vietnam War with Nixon, and it was a divided country over the Vietnam War. But there was still a respect for tradition. That's what I see. That tradition,
Yeah.
all right,
There's a whole
dissent,
different world.
robust debate, it's all gone over the cliff. So my question to you is, why?
I don't know why exactly, but there's just a climate of hatred. I think it's generated by the media. Basically, by and large, at least where I live, life is extremely good day by day, incredibly good. But the media is generally blasting out hatred of Trump, hatred of white people, hatred of well-to-do people, even though the people who run the media, of course, are very well-to-do people. But they're blasting out hatred of anything that is not left-wing, non-white, and preferably law-breaking. For people who are just ordinary citizens going about their jobs, there's nothing but contempt. For people who are Republicans trying to get their job done, trying to get their work done, there's nothing but contempt. The amount of hatred, and you put it extremely brilliantly, the amount of hatred coming out of the left wing is astounding, astonishing. When I left the Nixon Ford regime, I was deluged with job offers, deluged. The very first day that I was told that they wanted me to leave the White House, I had 4 job offers. I don't think that would happen today if I were a Trump speechwriter or a Trump anything. Just by being a friend of Trump, I've never actually met him in the flesh, but just by being a supporter of Trump, I think has caused me to be blacklisted from a number of speeches. And that's really a shame. But I'm old, and I'll somehow get by until my dying day. But the hostility in the air is fantastic, and is just breathtakingly even worse than it was in the Nixon days.
Now, I get a lot of letters that say, why do companies like Disney, all right, like Comcast, which runs NBC, AT&T, which runs CNN, why do they want to tear apart the traditions of America and divide people along skin color lines? What is in it for these big corporations that depend on a mass market to generate their profits?
It's a psychological thing. It's not an economic thing. It's not worked out on the basis of profit loss or balance sheets. It's worked out on the fact that there is something in their heads which has a lot of hatred, and they've got to express it some way. Bob Dylan, the great genius, said there are a lot of people who have knives and plates, and there's nothing, sorry, I beg your pardon, knives and forks, and they've got nothing on their plates, and they've got to cut something. So in this case, the people who run Disney, they're very far from Walt Disney. They're a very entirely different group of people from the days of Walt Disney, billion% different. They're very angry people. People in Hollywood nowadays are very angry people. I came out here in '76. I worked for Norman Lear, an extremely liberal left-wing guy. We got along great. I got along great with all his writers, not one of whom was Republican. I was the only Republican in the whole company. That could not even conceivably happen today. It's a whole different world.
When you see some showbiz people around town in Los Angeles, and do you ever say to them, what's the difference between the McCarthy blacklist in the 1950s, where accused communist people couldn't work in Hollywood, and now when if you supported Donald Trump, you can't work? It seems to me to be the exact same thing, is it not?
It is the exact same thing. Unfortunately, I don't see any of those people anymore because the restaurants here are all closed, and I do all the cooking at my own house. I just go out to the grocery store and buy salmon or steak and cook it for my wife, who's an invalid, and so I don't see those people as I would if the restaurants were open, so I can't ask them. But I will just tell you, they are a different kind of people. They are a hate-filled bunch of people. This is a group of people who are extremely ungrateful for the gifts that God has bestowed on them, for the gifts that America has bestowed on them. They don't like America. They don't like white people. I don't know what's with them. I have been in psychiatry myself, largely over eating problems because I eat too much, and since 1966. And my psychiatrists, I have 2 of them now. I ask them all the time, what is it that makes people hate Trump so much? And they're both Trump fans, and they don't know what it is that makes people hate Trump so much. But there is something going on here that makes the people that run Hollywood hate Trump, hate white people, hate middle-class people, hate working-class people. I don't understand it, but there's something going on. It's
well,
part of it is snobbery. Part of it is snobbery.
You tell your psychiatrist there are 2 reasons why the left, the committed left, the real ideologues hate Trump. Number 1, his demeanor. All right. he doesn't take any BS. He doesn't take it. He
I think that's
lashes
true.
back.
Very true.
Okay?
Very true.
And number two, the 3 Supreme Court justices he appointed. That blocked, at least temporarily, the left-wing agenda could be for a while. Those are the 2 primary reasons.
With the greatest respect to you, Bill, whom I have respected for some considerable time, and by the way, your speech this morning was just brilliant. I think it's something deeper in that there's some deep psychological problem, whether they associate Trump with a father they hated, whether they associate Trump with a mother they hated, whether they associate Trump with some kind of other relative or dominating figure in their life they hated. I do not know, but there is some deep psychological problem in these people's heads. There's something deep going on here. I can't describe it, but to tell you, I live in a very, very nice neighborhood. I don't deserve it. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to afford it. I'm surrounded by very rich people in Ferraris and very, very nice cars, and they are full of hate. They should be full of gratitude. They should be on their knees with gratitude.
Absolutely.
They're not.
Absolutely. All right, Ben, thanks very much. It's always
God bless you, sir.
it's always nice to talk to you, and you're a great
God
guest.
bless
Thanks
you,
for coming on.
God bless you.
Okay. If you are over the age of 50, I have an important message for you. There's a true alternative to AARP, the liberal retirement group that lobbies in favor of progressive policies. For less than $20 a year, an AMAC membership gives you members-only pricing on car insurance, roadside assistance, discounts on hotels and travel, cell phone plans, discount dental plans, and on and on and on and on. So please join more than 1 million fellow Americans right now at amac.us. And yes, I am a member. Visit amac.us, amac.us. All right, so you know Senator Josh Hawley got his book canceled by Simon & Schuster because Hawley was one of the politicians who said we should have a 10-day pause to investigate alleged voter fraud. That's all Hawley did, all right? So Simon & Schuster cancels his book. Regnery Publishing picks it up. It's a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal by publisher Thomas Pence of Regnery saying why he did. I thought it was a very good op-ed. So Hawley has got his book out in May, and it will be a big bestseller because of all of this. Now, CNN is on a little campaign to cancel its competition. Roll tape.
And then we're going to have to figure out the OANN and Newsmax problem. You know, that these companies have freedom of speech, but I'm not sure we need Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and such to be bringing them into tens of millions of homes. This is, allowing people to seek out information if they really want to, but not pushing it into their faces, I think is where we're going to have to go here.
Yeah, so he wants all the cable companies to throw Newsmax and OANN off the air. That's censorship, of course. Why don't we throw CNN off the air? CNN reported falsely about the Russian collusion for 3 years. Let's throw them off the air, right? Now, in the Washington Post, a columnist named Max Boot, B-O-O-T, he goes further than this. All right, Boot wants Fox News. There's a nice little hat there, Max. Very good. Was that a 2-for-1 deal? Did you get a little another hat with it? Or I don't know if I would pay for that outright. But there's Max Boot, Washington Post. And I used to like Max. He's a talented writer. He's gone. He's in Crazyville. You take a left at Lunatic Alley and you go right into Crazyville. So here's a quote from Max. Large cable companies such as Comcast and Charter, which carry Fox News and provide most of its revenue in the form of user fees, need to step in and kick Fox News off the air. And if small competitors such as One America News and Newsmax continue to incite viewers, they too should be booted off, says Max Boot. So this is fascism, pure fascism. Is what they did in the Soviet Union. It's what they did in Nazi Germany. It's what they did in Tojo's Japan. It's what they did in Castro's Cuba. That's what they did in Venezuela. This is fascism. Cancel culture, that is a nice name for fascism. That's what it is. And tomorrow again, I will give you a counter to cancel culture. All right, so yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. I have an analysis of black-white relations in America posted on BillO'Reilly.com under the message of the day. It's audio. I did it for WABC Radio last night. I think it's worth a listen. And it ties, of course, into Martin Luther King Day. So there are a number of people who say that if you are a Trump supporter, you have no right to mention Martin Luther King's name. You can't ever mention his name. So these people are Jake Tapper, again, CNN, one of the most vicious persons on the planet. All right. Joe Lockhart, former Clinton White House press secretary. Robert Reich, Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton. You might remember early in the factory, he was on a whole bunch of times. All right. And others that if you voted for Donald Trump, you have no right to even mention Martin Luther King's name in any context. Don't say he's great. You can't talk about him. All right, this is a continued assault on freedom of speech. And the absolute worst and the absolute most vicious in this area was on The View. Go.
Ted Cruz with challenging, the Electoral College, Kayleigh McEnany, just over and over again with her propaganda. How dare they try to quote Dr. King on the celebration of his birthday when they enabled a racist president.
Okay, so it doesn't get more hateful than The View. All right, should The View be canceled? Should Disney be forced to take it off the air? I mean, between that woman and Joy Behar, I don't know how you can be more hateful to an entire segment of the American population. How? It's impossible. You couldn't be more hateful than The View. And you're coming from a guy who was on The View when Barbara Walters ran it about 15 times. And I didn't have a problem with it then, even when Whoopi and Behar walked off when I objected to building a mosque on the site of 9/11. They walked off the show, and I was happy they did because I got more airtime. They were gone. All right? Now, you ought to Google that and see it. But compared to what they did back then to what's going on now, I mean, this is just pure hatred. Schumer and Pelosi vis-a-vis Trump. Hatred. I mean, Trump is no Boy Scout. He loathes the people who criticize him. But he's not even in the same hemisphere, as far as hatred is concerned, than these folks are. And that's what it's all about. Now, the Democrats gin up their mob in the same exact way they accuse President Trump of doing. Roll the tape.
But look, if the president does go ahead and fire Robert Mueller, we would have people take to the streets. I believe there would be widespread civil unrest because Americans understand that the rule of law is paramount.
Before I end, that's my call to action here. Please don't just come here today and then go home. Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And guess what? We're going to win this battle because while you try and quote the Bible, Jeff Sessions and others, you really don't know the Bible. God is on our side.
And I don't think, even in states where Donald Trump won big, that it does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face. I mean, the truth is this guy is bad for this country.
So that is about as insightful, and I don't mean insightful in figuring out what the truth is. I mean it inciting violence. All of that. All of it. Those are 4. I could have given you 40. Now, has the press reported that? No. No. They're not going to report that liberal Democrats incite violence. Even when a senator says, I punch him in the face. Yeah, that's pretty violent. Punch a president in the face? Now, if I were the head of the Secret Service, Tester would have been brought in and questioned. I would have done that. But I want you to understand, I'm not justifying bad behavior by pointing to other bad behavior, as so many commentators do. I don't do that. We have never done that. All right? The behavior at the Capitol was the worst behavior I've seen politically in my lifetime. The worst. And there's no way you justify it by pointing to a bunch of clowns who did the same thing but on a much lesser level. Okay? So you don't justify bad behavior by pointing to other bad behavior. That's what fifth graders do. Oh, Larry did something a lot worse than I did. Okay, stop. But the fact that the Democratic Party and the liberal wing have called for violence is established. They have. Media never calls them out. All right, Washington Post is another great one. We went over the New York Times yesterday, and a woman there, a reporter named Maggie Haberman, has written 131 anti-Trump articles using anonymous sources. 131. So the Washington Post says, we got to catch up to Maggie. So we're gonna write an article that says everybody hates Trump now. Everybody. That's the article that these three reporters, and I'll tell you about them in a moment, that these three reporters were ordered to deliver to the editors of the Washington Post. So, of course, they wrote the article before they even picked up the phone and talked to anybody. Everybody hates them. How about this? And all anonymous sources. First part of the article. Though Trump has been exceptionally furious with Vice President Pence, his relationship with lawyer Rudy Giuliani, one of his most steadfast defenders, is also fracturing, according to people with knowledge of the dynamics between the men. Who? Okay? Anonymous source. Of course. According to people with not, yes, did they get someone on a phone to say that? Sure. I can do that like in 10 seconds. All reporters know people are going to badmouth certain other people. Here's number two. As he watched impeachment quickly gain steam, Trump was upset generally that virtually nobody is defending him, including Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, who of course did defend President Trump, Senior Advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner, Economic Advisor Larry Kudlow, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, according to a senior administration official. Who? Give me some clarity. No. Goes on to say the president pretty wound up, said the senior administration official, who, like some others interviewed, spoke on the condition of anonymity to be candid. Oh, come on. This is just so ridiculous, all right? This is so corrupt. This is what the Washington Post and New York Times have done for 5 years. Now, on the Washington Post article, who wrote that? First reporter was Ashley Parker, 39 years old, all right? Currently a senior political analyst at MSNBC. Wow! So what is she doing being a reporter if she's a political analyst for the most far-left network in the world? What? Aren't there standards there? Second one, Josh Dawsey, 30 years old, 30. All right, he's an on-air contributor to CNN. So what is he doing as a Washington Post reporter? If he's an on-air contributor to the second most liberal network in the world. And the third one, Philip Rucker, 36, political analyst for NBC News and MSNBC, author of A Very Stable Genius, Donald J. Trump's Testing of America, which was a hatchet Trump book. All three of these are Trump haters. All three of them are doing hate Trump commentary, and all three are being labeled by the Washington Post as straight news reporters. Corruption? What else can I tell you? Okay, let's start the mail with Joyce Ferrarelli, Cincinnati. In the court of public opinion, we don't need compelling evidence the election was rigged. You yourself, Bill, admit there was fraud. The Democrats felt the election was honest, Why did they fight so hard on allowing audits and investigations if the Democrats thought the election was on it? There was no upside for Democrats to go in and investigate the election. They already won, and if fraud was uncovered, that would embarrass the party, would it not? So that's why they didn't do it, or won't do it, ever. Lisa Wood, Kansas City, what do you think about what they are doing to Josh Hawley in Missouri? Should I be concerned? I'm going to be canceled next. Hawley's under big fire. I think that will dissipate. I think Missouri will stand behind the senator. I hope so. John, Senator Manchin's comments about expelling Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley from the Senate are beyond disappointing. Anyone who thinks that Cruz and Hawley were trying to start or aid insurrection is a total moron. I agree. I agree 100%. Jennifer, would someone explain to me why so many Republican senators and representatives are in support of impeachment? Only 10 congressmen from the Republican side crossed. That's not a lot. Senate, we'll see. And that's what my column is all about. Mitch McConnell, all of that. Please read the column titled The Trump Legacy. Dr. Pete Steinberg, Brookline, Massachusetts. Why won't President Trump's lawyers file a suit alleging the House impeachment was conducted in an unconstitutional manner? Because they lose. They followed the rules. I mean, it was wrong to do it, in my opinion, but they followed the rules. Carolyn, Nancy Pelosi is just a puppet who is really behind the campaign to get Trump impeached. Nancy Pelosi. She's behind it. Yes. Does she put her finger to the wind? Absolutely. But she's behind it. Lawrence McCoy, Columbus, Indiana. The cancel culture, very powerful, has reached critical mass. Free speech is lost. Not forever. But I think critical mass, is, as you pointed out, Lawrence, absolutely reached. And I think there's going to be a tremendous backlash against the freedom of speech oppressors. Kelly, power is never a good thing. Thank you for honest reporting and never wavering from honesty, even when it isn't easy. You are the only news we trust. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. Naomi Carrion, Latiz, Pennsylvania. Bill, every year I give my now 90-year-old Navy veteran a new book. I guess that's a husband. This year I gave him a signed copy of Killing Crazy Horse. He said it was the best book he's ever read, and he reads a lot. Killing Crazy Horse is an excellent book. I hope you will take the time to get it and read it. And on that note, and thank you, Naomi, if you pre-order Killing the Mob, pre-order it on BillO'Reilly.com. It's out on May 4th. You get half off Killing Crazy Horse or Killing Trump. Not Killing Trump, the United States of Trump. Maybe Killing Trump 3 years. The United States of Trump. So you get 50% off Crazy Horse or the United States of Trump if you pre-order Killing the Mob, which you will love. I guarantee it. All right? And I have a letter here from Flo Valdez, Cumming, Georgia. It's my birthday. Can you give us a positive word of the day? Absolutely, Flo. Happy birthday. And try to be perspicacious in everything you do. Perspicacious. Perspicacious. Back in a moment with the final thought. All right, here is today's final thought. You know, this hatred, Ben Stein was absolutely right. It's just off the chart. Don't you do it. You know, I mean, we love our viewers and listeners on radio and premium members on BillO'Reilly.com. But I get some hateful mail. I do. And I don't want you to get sucked into that trap. Oppose? Absolutely. Speak your mind all day long. Get annoyed? I get annoyed. Come on. Look, I mean, anything with McConnell tonight on Kate's Law. I mean, steam coming out of my ears. But I don't hate Mitch McConnell. All right? I don't, that emotion is destructive. So you got to separate it. You got to take a step back. All right? You can oppose. But those people at the Capitol, as I said, they wrecked Donald Trump. They wrecked the Republican Party temporarily. For what? Because they hated? All they had to do was stand outside with the sign. You have to break the window and threaten people and kill 5. 5 dead. Don't hate. See you tomorrow.